Hi, welcome to Clutter Bravado.
Yes, and it's the energy. It's not just about the stuff.
So we should probably just get into it, right?
Let's go.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well.
It is a Monday morning. It's right after daylight savings time begins.
That's why.
Yes, that's why. That's what's going on. I am exhausted this morning. And waking up, 7:30 a.m. I've been trying to wake up earlier. That's the same as 6:30 a.m. That's too early for me.
Well, look, even for me, it's somehow, I wake up early in the morning, but I don't know, that hour just takes a little toll on, for a couple of days.
Yeah, we kind of, I need it. I need that time. I need that extra hour of sleep, but it's fine.
It stays light longer.
It's going to be light until after 7 p.m. until November.
So
What a
that's
joy.
a good thing.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. Anyway, so last week was really rad. We did a lot of fun stuff. Aspire put on their West Hollywood Design District Week, which was really fun. There were a lot of different events that were happening. We had the opportunity to make it to a few of them and some great panels with a bunch of our friends.
I know.
Yeah.
That was fun.
A lot of people that we've had on the show were speaking in panels over the week, which is really cool.
And one we're going to have on the show next week, I believe, Peter Gursky. So
That's right. We have Peter Gursky on. We're going to be interviewing him next week, and he's going to be talking about his new show because he's a set designer in Mid-Century Modern, which is the new show that is launching like this week or next. It's the end of the month. I think it's like the 28th. I'm really excited. We got to go to a taping of that, which is so fun, and 8 hours, but it's so fun nonetheless.
we did work for the show for 8 hours in the crowd, clapping, laughing.
And I think we did a good job of that. It made it really easy.
It was fun. It was really well done, and I'm excited to talk to him about that part of, because it is part of design, and he's on top of that, he does project for clients too. So he's an interior designer, but he's a very talented set designer. So I'm excited to delve into that with him. And so he was on the panel. Cesar was on another panel, which was really interesting.
That's right. You went
global,
to that one.
on global design, and so that was really fun.
Yeah. And then there was the panel that I think changed everything for me. And I want to talk about that one specifically. So it was very much talking about how LA is rebuilding after the fires. And the LA wildfires in January were, something that the city has not seen, that amount of devastation, to lose entire neighborhoods and thousands of houses. And so many people being displaced, that there is this sort of call for designers and for architects to make a difference and to find something that can be a solution for a lot of different people. The panel, I have the names of it. I had to write it down. It's 8 people on the panel, which is crazy. But it was moderated by Jennifer Quayle from Aspire Magazine. There was Jamie Bush, Andre Herrera, Adam Hunter, who we've had on the show, Paul McLean, who I hope we have on the show, David Montalba, Jamie Rummerfield, Wei Wei, and Kelly Shandell. So all of them were coming from a completely different place, but all with the same intentions and the same heart of wanting to be able to recreate Los Angeles in a way that is conscious of the culture that the city already has, without trying to make something that's going to be fast and cheap and just something that, putting a house together without really letting it be intentional. Jaime Rummerfield especially. So our guests today are Jaime Rummerfield and Ron Woodson, who we've had on the show before. But they're talking about SIA and what Save Iconic Architecture is doing to help to maintain that culture through the rebuild of Los Angeles after the fires. And everyone that was on this panel had such incredible ideas and something to bring to the table. And I found that was so inspiring. And there was a lot of talk about the Case Study House project from the 1940s. And the houses that came out of that are now legendary pieces of Los Angeles culture. A real ingrained part of our heritage. And it's not just in Los Angeles, but throughout California and also Arizona as well. So I did some research on the case study project, and there are so many parallels. So the case study project was started by Arts and Architecture magazine in 1945, and they put out an announcement saying that they were starting this project, that they had gotten so far 8 architects to put together a team of people that were going to use reasonable materials, designs for the purpose of it being recreated. So this is something that a lot of people would be able to access, that was going to be affordable, and was going to be sort of the house of the future, the way that we're looking at the future of residential homes. They wanted it to be innovative, but without being so creative that it was going to be unlivable.
Right.
And also something that was, they were looking to the future after the war. In reading the actual announcement for it, and actually I read the whole magazine, so it's available in PDF online. I read the entire magazine, and I found so many parallels for where we are right now compared to where we were then. And again, not just in Los Angeles, but in culture overall in America, there are a lot of sentiments that so many of us are sort of rallying around right now, of wanting to shift away from this like political greed and going into something that is more community minded, that we can develop and cherish the culture that we've created here and help to sort of incubate that a little bit more, and letting go of this like constant consumerism and that being the only thing that's running our lives, and really craving something that has more purpose and more meaning to it. So this case study house project was doing that, where it brought together, I wrote the names of the architects for that as well. So it was J.R. Davidson, Richard Neutra, Sumner Spalding, Eero Saarinen. Oh God, I'm so bad at pronouncing this one. Okay. Eero Saarinen, Charles Eames, William Wilson, Worcester, and Ralph Rapson. I hope I know I mispronounced those. Anyway, I'm learning. So they got those architects together to put together designs, and there were other architects that were pulled in as well as a part of the case study project. And there were a total of 35 designs that were made, 25 homes were created, and it never ended up being what they intended it to be, which was this like affordable reproduction, like these houses that you could reproduce, and that would be like sort of the future of what architecture would look like. It didn't turn into that. But we do have these houses, which were examples of people having that intention in building. The SIA is sort of working along those same lines to try to put together an idea of something that could be recreated, but also really taking a deep dive into studying what we consider to be Los Angeles culture here. And so that's what Jamie and Ron are going to be talking about on our episode today. But something that I want to talk about, that you and I have talked about quite a bit, is that on this panel, there were so many different ideas that were so close to each other. They had different facets of this same idea. And looking into like that initial issue of Arts and Architecture from February 1945, and looking at it, I'm like, why don't we do something exactly like that? Having a contest and getting other people who are in the industry to sort of judge and pick something that is really going to be effective, including the residents that are looking to rebuild. And obviously, if there's a resident that's like, I want to work with this architect and this designer to rebuild my house, absolutely go do it. But there are so many people that really are just looking for a solution, and wanting to find something so that they can get back into their home. And something that was brought up on the panel is that a lot of the residents lived in these neighborhoods because of the culture, because of the architecture, the community that was already there. And I think working as a community is something that would be more effective.
It is. I think that's going to be the challenge, because, as you said, I think that the project even though it created some iconic houses and some, revolutionary use of materials, did not have a lasting effect.
True.
And I think that at the panel, and we've talked to quite a few people that have come to us, and so we've been listening to brilliant minds having great ideas, but now it's time to, I guess, get together and get it done. And I think that the power of the community, the power of the design community altogether would be, if everybody gets together, I think that there is a lot more power to it.
Absolutely.
Now, the question is how to get that, how to achieve that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what.
And whether that's something people want to.
Right.
And I'm going to say something controversial, and with all the love and respect in the world. But I feel that the need that Los Angeles has for great architecture and great architects to come together to set aside their own financial gain from the situation, and instead let this be something that the community is doing, that the design community is doing for the people who need it. There's so much value in that. And the ego of wanting to be the name behind it, wanting to have come up with the idea, is going to kill that.
No, okay. Yes.
I feel like
there's a good chance of it.
The fighting of trying to be like, I'm the one who came up with this brilliant idea, is going to keep brilliant ideas from coming forward.
Well,
I think that having a group of people that all work together and everyone being willing to share that this group is the one that did it, I feel like there's so much more that can come out of that. We need more ideas and people to work together. If you just have one person that's like, yes, it was me. I was the one who decided to do this, and I worked with these people and I came up with this. Like, okay, cool for you. But there are a lot of other people that could add to that idea. And the panel that we were present for, there were so many brilliant ideas together that if you were to like sort of meld them, some incredible results could come from that.
What came up with at the panel is, when we talk about great architecture and all that stuff, we are also talking for people who can't really afford to buy to rebuild, which is a big issue, and then, or are going to be taken advantage of because they don't have the knowledge. They don't have the power of being unified and a big voice. So that's what we need to try to do. I think that, look, I've been part of association that I have pulled my hair out because it is challenging. There are egos, there are needs. Yes. There is also a need for this is non-financial. I mean, there are many projects where most of those designers and architects, they would not take it on their own. So it's like we have to find the incentive for them to want to do it. And the interest, and maybe it's intellectual, maybe it's it's marketing, maybe it's just charitable, or we'll find something, and we'll see. We're going to take it one day at a time, one meeting at a time. We're going to try to get those brilliant minds to see if there is something. Yeah. And I believe that there is. I mean, I think it's a little utopian, but I think it'd be really cool to experience.
I'm a believer in utopia.
Exactly, me too.
I believe that it's possible. You get enough creative people together that have incredible ideas, and you set aside the ego, I think that it's totally possible. Well, I think the unwillingness to set aside ego is something that we got to look out for. But also, I mean, there is such thing as success for everyone, and everyone can find a solution. It can all be different. Maybe we don't need to create a community here, but God, wouldn't it be cool if we did?
It'd be fun. I think it'd be really fun. And let's face it, sadly, what happened in LA will happen in other places.
Absolutely.
And it might happen in other places in LA. It might happen to places we had issues in the Carolinas. We have issues in the South.
Exactly.
So trying to come up with a template of what does a rebuild look like, so that people are not left on their own, and there's a cohesive and smart way to rebuild a neighborhood or to rebuild an area would be nice. And I think that we are, as designers and architects, we're probably one of the most knowledgeable group, other than a city, to take care of real infrastructure, streets or electrical. But as far as homes and the way a community flows, we're it. So
yeah. Yeah. Well, we should probably get to our interview that we did in Palm Springs at Villa Go Lightly.
You got it.
Yes, finally got it. But with Ron Woodson and Jaime Rummerfield, it was an incredible conversation that we had. And I'm just so inspired by them and everything that they're doing. So listen to this episode, obviously, but check out Save Iconic Architecture. Everything that SIA is doing right now, they are on the pulse of the culture of the city of Los Angeles and everything that we are desperately craving. The heritage, the history, conservation, all of it. We're big supporters of SIA. So should we get to it?
Let's go.
Welcome to Clutter Bravado. We are here with Ron Woodson and Jaime Rummerfield in the Go Lightly Villa in Palm Springs.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
First, both of you are stunning right now.
Oh,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Absolutely gorgeous.
It's that desert light, I think. Palm Springs.
And this is a beautiful place to be filming too. It's a gorgeous house, and you have a very big party that's happening here later today. So
Yes.
I'm really excited for that. So as we've talked about before, you two are the founders of SIA, Save Iconic Architecture. And there is a lot that you are doing right now, specifically with the state of Los Angeles. You work in the city of Los Angeles and with historical buildings there. And you've been keeping us up to date on all of the, like the state of the houses with the tragedies that's happened with the fires. And so I want you to tell me first about what that experience has been like, taking inventory of where Los Angeles sits with its historic architecture.
Yeah, I mean, just the wildfires of Palisades and Altadena have been so traumatizing for our community. And that includes our architectural landmarks and iconic residences that were swept up in this fire as well. And during the first couple days, we got so many people reaching out, like, is this house okay? Is this resident, like, you know, historic houses are almost like friends to people, and they really were worried, knowing that these were the regions of some very famous houses, some very beloved houses, like the Will Roger home, which was like a California ranch style. The Bridges house, which is, if you know Sunset Boulevard, it suspends over Sunset Boulevard, and sadly that was gone. I mean, we're talking about iconic structures that disappeared, and so quickly, and so all we did was try to post that and share with our community the status of these landmarks. And were some good news and some bad news, and sadly.
And at the same time, you have to realize that historic neighborhoods have been taken out.
Exactly.
I mean, not just iconic architecture. I mean, historic neighborhoods that people have lived in for many, many years. And, you know, that's a big part of what we want to take part in, is helping across the board, is helping to bring back those iconic structures that have been lost, but also in those historic neighborhoods, trying to bring back those neighborhoods to make them look like they did prior, and not just sort of hodgepodge. Because, you know, there have been areas in California, like the Oakland Hills fires. There were some beautiful houses there, but when they rebuilt, they weren't so. A lot of them weren't so good after. So that's always the worry, and so we want to try to spearhead before that happens.
Yes, and you know, technically there's a big rush, like build, rebuild, rebuild. But it's like, hold on a second, because rebuild what? You know, what are we talking about here? Because if it's this, you know, these tract homes, cheap boxes, soulless, you know, buildings that don't represent California, it's like, this is an opportunity to take a look at our historic references, make sure that those are represented moving forward, because that is what is so good about California living. And so you have Altadena, which is historically an amazing African-American community that over 100 years of families and, you know, decades of houses that have been passed on from generation to generation. And these were turn-of-the-century homes, whether they're French, Tudor to Spanish Revival. I feel like Altadena is LA's best. It was LA's best kept secret because it was untouched. And that is so rare in LA, and we need to champion that. We lost the McNally House. We lost, the Wharton School, like these wonderful examples of early Americana in California. And that's a myriad of cultures and represented there. And so that needs to be carried forward. And then you have the case study program, which was born in the Pacific Palisades through Arts and Architecture magazine. And that was John Intenza, who ran the magazine. He came up with a program called the Case Study Program. And it was directed towards the vision of LA and new ideas with innovative materials. And it's the same spirit to do that. Why not do it again?
Yeah.
And with resilient materials, sustainable materials, fireproof, as well as high design. That's the key.
That's the key.
Yeah.
And so we're in talks with a big coalition and working on a new case study program. And it's really exciting. And it's still kind of under wraps, but it's going to be big and really a defining moment for LA architecture.
Something that's really valuable about that too is, as far as I understand, the case study program was not for the super rich, like for the people that like had tons and tons of resources to sort of go with. It was for people who just wanted a house, and allowing architects to create really sustainable and livable homes.
Right.
And especially in the Altadena neighborhoods, when you have someone who's inherited a house from their parents who inherited the house, then they don't have the same kind of resources to rebuild in the same kind of style. And so is the program that you're sort of developing and the things that you're looking forward to now, is that conducive for people that don't have abundant resources?
Because you can still do that. This has been the problem in Los Angeles, is these overzealous developers come in and they buy the land. It's cheap to put a big box up. They put them in, one and done, and they move on to the next. Now there's an opportunity to bring a neighborhood back with some thought. With some thought.
And some culture and heritage for the neighborhood.
And so bringing those neighborhoods back. Same with Pacific Palisades. It can be done. And, sadly, one of our best friends who is looking back at us from heaven, Tim Campbell, this would have been...
right up his... This would have been his mission.
This would have been his mission.
And he was the perfect person to do that. So in his honor, in a way, his way of thinking was, how do you carry architecture at a very heightened level from a historic building and complementing it into the future? So it's not about just reiterating what is the past, but bringing it forward and in a very high architecture way. And he was so good at that.
Yeah, and also making something that would be protected so that if something like this ever, God forbid, happens again, then it's less likely to be a full total loss with everything.
Absolutely.
And this goes back to what Jamie was saying. This is where it's going to take some thought. Not just hurry.
Churn and burn.
Exactly.
We cannot do that.
We can't do it again. We can't rebuild the same way we did before.
And I think that also, technology, the whole technology of the new technologies need to be included in protecting, being able to...
Absolutely.
Has to be.
To protect those neighborhoods. And as it looks like, there are so many places too where in LA that are in high danger, high risk, and that needs to be applied to all those neighborhoods too, because it's bound to happen again and again.
And we need new visionaries in our city, and so this is a great opportunity for that. And even though, yes, not all people can afford a very fancy architect or the most prevalent top architect in our city, but being inspired by them is kind of the first step. And so having the guidelines and the way we're looking at the case study would be, you have these top prominent architects develop a source of reference that can be implemented. And that's a case that was, again, in the spirit of a case study. They were meant to be repeated and built, you know, as a systematic way of architecture. And the most successful case study program, because actually the arts and architecture one technically did not work out well. It was just kind of one of each, and it kind of, you know, but we're talking Richard Neutra, Charles Eames, you know, Gregory Ain, and the Ain tracks are the biggest and the most successful, and they are still there today throughout our city. And there was a tract of about 30, 35 in Altadena that did burn down, and there's 4 remaining.
Wow.
And we're filming those. We're looking at, you know, we're interviewing a lot of the homeowners, and that's what's interesting. Is actually just the personal stories that come out of this, and these people who have such a love for architecture, and it's nice to see that bring a community together.
I feel that this is a really incredible opportunity for Los Angeles to create something that will stand the test of time and that can create this new history. So now we're looking back at, there was this horrible devastation from this wildfire, and because of that, these beautiful things were then created that we can then honor as a sort of new history that we have. Yeah. And throughout the case study homes and a lot of the history that I've studied through you and like the tours that we've, you know, that I've taken and everything, every point in time has had a little something different. It's had a different story to tell. And the architecture that came out of it really reflects that. And what do you think, if you were to sort of pin down a kind of style or something that would stand out for this era, what would that be?
Well, you know, the interesting thing is we need to go even further back. This is the reason so many people love Los Angeles architecture, because there is this huge mix of styles and periods, and you had all of these master architects who came here, you know, Frank Lloyd Wright, Richard Neutra, John Elgin Wolfe. Those were all very different styles of architecture, all next door to one another. There is nowhere else in the country, and I would venture the world, that you had all of these fantastic architects whose work was all in one area. And so I think we have to look back and take them one step at a time. And, you know, like Altadena, those were, again, Spanish style, and some arts and crafts. And so really we have to look at it from that standpoint. It's like doing this history lesson to go back to and go forward with. So it's not going to be just one particular. This is where the thought process is going to really
and you have
take
options,
shape.
you know, you do have options.
You do have options.
It doesn't have to be just a box or and it could be the home for tomorrow that we've never seen before, which I find an interesting and exciting time as well.
Exactly. I love that. So if someone is listening to this and they're curious about how they can help or how they can support, what would you recommend?
You know, I would start, you know, on Instagram, we are Save Iconic Architecture, and we always are posting about kind of the next steps, because this is just, it's so recent. There's so many, you know, we're building a coalition of the top architects, just the top talents in LA. And so putting together that type of initiative is where we need support at Save Iconic Architecture. And our website is siaprojects.org. But it's really about bringing a community together. I'm even working with a coalition. It's a small group of conservators who, in Altadena, you know, when you look at the burn scar of what's left, it's just chimneys, right? That's nothing else. And it's amazing that's the last thing standing. And so when you think of decorative arts, like what's on a chimney? It's tile. And there's the biggest cataloging of batch-elder tiles that this one group is doing to get the tiles, save them before they go away into demolition, because demolition is rolling out like a steamroller right now. And so you would think, oh, is there a lot of architectural salvage? And it's really no, but the chimneys and the fireplaces are actually so exquisite coming out of these homes. And they're still,
And they tell
it's
a
the only
story.
shining gem of a treasure that is sitting there. And, you know, they're working rapidly to actually with the homeowner, trying to contact like who lived here and addresses. Like it's a very valiant effort, just even saving these little treasures, you know. So it's called Save the Tiles, you know. So there's a lot of little groups too that we support, and it all filters through the eye of architecture and saving architecture and carrying, you know, our past forward.
What would you say to someone who wants to use this as an opportunity to profit, focusing on this as a business venture? If there was something that you could sit down and say to someone who was looking to take advantage of this situation, what would that be?
We would just,
What?
I don't
Go ahead,
know.
Zoe.
Sorry. I mean, it's a big topic for us because this is why we started Save Iconic
Exactly.
Right.
Architecture.
Yeah.
Is there's rapid development and destruction of our city that is very careless about what its vernacular visually looks like, and respecting our heritage and history, architecturally speaking, is disregarded, and so it's a big upset already. So imagine this just compounded
scale.
by
Right.
100 to the scale. And so, you know, the amazing thing about LA is known for kind of tearing itself down, but building it back up. So there will be that. And so I guess we accept that there's all kinds of people wanting to make it a business venture, but also want to help. There's always, I feel, more good people in the world than bad.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
We wanna
yes,
hope.
you know,
Yes, we
let's
hope.
take a moment and stop, you know, maybe that hamster wheel. To the people who are trying to capitalize on this, this is not the time for that.
No.
There are people hurting. There are communities that need
lot of
help
people.
to be put together.
Right.
And the shape of our future visually needs the right people to do
Yeah.
that right
Yeah.
now. So like step aside and just let our, you know, the masters who do architecture on a visionary level, they're here to do it. They have appeared, and it's amazing to watch. So just maybe make some room for that and not barrel over everybody, because, you know, you can see those efforts, the land grabbing,
Right.
people trying to do big tracts of development. It's like, hold on, like, let's talk with us.
Yeah.
Because we need to bring our visionaries of art and architecture together with the builders who can, you know, afford it and have the means to actually make something beautiful happen.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity.
Yeah. It's an opportunity to honor the culture of Los Angeles.
Right.
Yeah.
Its history. Its
It is.
aesthetic,
Like,
and-
do the right thing.
Yeah.
Right.
LA deserves
and really
it.
trying to also, a lot of people in the Palisades as well as Altadena, really trying to stress to them to try to hold on to the land,
Yes.
Yes.
because
Don't sell.
that developers are, you know,
You'll
they're
make more
like
money
vultures.
if you rebuild and
They're
then sell.
circling.
Yeah.
And
Hang
hold
on.
Yeah.
just if you can.
Yeah.
Is there any new technology that you've been made aware of now, you know, talking to all those people that you think will be used in the rebuild?
I think
There's-
so.
yeah.
Yeah. It has
New
to be.
building materials, new fire retardant materials, new
Sprinkler systems.
systems.
Yeah.
I mean, those are going to be imperative. I mean, you know, Laurent, you know this little ADU that we built. It is so overbuilt for what it was. I mean, what the city made us do to build that little 780 square foot dwelling. So now it's like, okay, we have this opportunity and let's live up to what the city is making people do anyway, with all of the guidelines that they're putting forth. Now we have to put more towards fire retardant materials and fire rated roofs and that type of thing.
Yeah.
And
So-
with that, you know, to move when you think of thousands of homes that need to be built, it's, Palisades is really kind of one road in, one road out. It's not like a big zone for building to begin with.
Right.
Yeah.
And so they've relaxed a lot of the coastal commission mandates and things. So with that also becomes a little worrisome because the guardrails are gone too.
Yeah.
And so, how high can you build? How many stories can a house have now? Like there's really, what are we going to see? So, and there's not much regulation. So why not work together to make it aesthetically pleasing and the way the land is used even. So there's a lot of discussion, and that's why it's also new right now. So it's interesting to see what will come out of it because there's a lot of questions that are being developed and reviewed, so.
Yeah.
But it's exciting because if people can come together, again, a builder or realtor, they have to embrace design, and to ignore that is just negligent.
I agree.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree. Well, I know that you have a party to get prepared for.
Yes. Yes, we will celebrate design
We will
as well,
celebrate design and,
as we always do.
and saving iconic architecture.
Yes. So it is Save Iconic Architecture on Instagram.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then the website is siaprojects.org.
Or-
Yes.
You got
Amazing.
it. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
sitting
for
down,
having
taking
us.
some time,
Thank
and
you.
for sharing this beautiful venue.
Of course,
Yes.
it's always
Yes.
great to be with you.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.